To Victoria now, so you know this is going to be depressing. Happy Ida Hobbit Day. If you don't know what that stands for, I got to read it out for you because I didn't either. It's International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia and Transphobia. And what better way, the Victorian Parliament said to itself, to celebrate this day than to get some drag queens to read storybooks to children. Here's some of the event.
Alex doesn't feel like just a boy or just a girl. They feel very uncomfortable being called he or she.
It's not what you think, for mine is not blue. My shadow is pink. My shadow loves ponies and books and pink toys. Princesses, me. Fairies, and things not for boys.
I just can't even bear to watch that footage. Here's a snapshot from one of the drag queens who attended Parliament today on invitation. Here's a snapshot, and do turn away if you're a bit squeamish. Send the kids to bed if they're not already. This is from his Instagram, and let's just say we picked one of the more tame shots for your viewing today. This is drag queen Frock Hudson. But Andrews charges on. He's wishing everyone a happy Ida Hobbit Day. Here he is.
We often think that as time goes on, things are supposed to get easier. But for some, it's getting harder. It's a reminder that progress isn't a straight line. It's a constant fight, a constant struggle. And in the face of the vile things that have been thrown at the community lately, I know it feels like even more of a struggle than usual. It's hard to stay optimistic. It's hard to stay hopeful. And it just shouldn't be this hard.
All the victimisation. Oh, you guys are doing so poorly. The government today announced $1.8 million to be spread out amongst organisations so that they could have safety and inclusivity training for the LGBTIQ community. So I'd say they're doing pretty well out of that. But what has the opposition got to say to this in Victoria? What's John Pesutto got to say? What opposition's happening? Here he was today.
And had I the opportunity to know about it, I would have gone up and said hello. Lots of people come to the Victorian Parliament, and we always extend courtesy and warmth to all people, whether they're Victorians or people visiting from around the world or around the country, to our great Parliament. It's their house. It's everybody's house. I love everybody, and this is everybody's house. Everybody should feel welcome in the Victorian Parliament.
It's everybody's house, unless your name is more redeeming, in which case I'll expel you and hope to never, ever see you again. Honestly, the hypocrisy of this guy trying to have it both ways.
What a
utterly
surprise.
Ridiculous.
What a surprise. I've got to tell you, when I first heard the term Ida Hobbit, I thought it was something to do with Lord of the Rings, but I was soon proven wrong on that. And when you watch that drag queen story time, it always jars me about this stuff, that they talk about, gender fluidity, but they always come back to enforcing gender norms. And in fact, in that book, where he's reading out that book, My Shadow is Pink, and he's talking about all these things I like that are not for boys. The point is, it doesn't matter. Children go through phases. Girls, they're tomboys sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes a boy wants a Barbie doll, whatever. These are things that kids go through. Why do we keep continually telling kids that if they feel a certain way at a particular point in time while their brain is developing, you must want to be a girl or you must want to be a boy? It's a denial of what childhood actually is.
100%.
You've got to admire Daniel Andrews. I mean, he can make drag queens reading to children sound like the greatest fight for human rights that humanity has ever undertaken. But in the upside-down world of Daniel Andrews, it's the sexualisation of children. That's not vile or awful. Rather, it's the parents who oppose it. Have a look at what he said on the news this evening.
It's shameful. It's just shameful. What are you protesting against? Like, you're just using it as a platform for your vile hatred. It's awful. If you don't want to go to these events, don't go. They're not compulsory. Those who want to go should be free to do so.
And that's a bit disingenuous to say, well, if you don't like it, don't go. It's being hosted by local councils, which you pay for, and it's being hosted by public schools, which you also pay for. There was a school in Victoria, Woodley School, that cancelled their drag queen story time after parents found out about it in the media. The school newsletter advertised that a guest would be reading stories to kids, but left out the fact it was a drag queen. So when Daniel Andrews says, well, if you don't like it, don't go, that's not quite what's the experience of people in his state.
And that's the tip of the iceberg. When parents find out what's actually going on in the schools, what books are being supplied in the school libraries, some of them are downright pornographic. And every time a parent speaks up, that is what they cop. They get called vile, they get called bigots, and it's all in an attempt to silence any opposing views. And I would say that is what's vile.
That there's one other interesting thing about this, and we had a shot at John Pasuto saying, well, I would have been there because Parliament House is for everybody, and the point about except Moira Deeming was well made. But John Pasuto didn't know about it because Daniel Andrews didn't tell the opposition this was happening, which leads me to believe that this event at Parliament House was not about helping children. It was to make a political point, which underscores my problem with this whole thing. Children are being used as props in a political campaign by Daniel Andrews and by drag queens. Yeah. It's not about kids at all.
And he knew there'd be blowback if anyone was told that it would actually happen. And I just can't get over that they haven't got enough brains to work out if they're going to have an event like that they would at least not pick a drag queen who posts sexualised images on social media. Like, way to shoot yourself in the foot. And that image we showed you before is
vanilla.
Not even the half of it anyway. We'll leave that to one side.